Could I have been anywhere else for this? USA, USA, USA. Woo! Happy Independence Day, everybody, and good morning. Totally slept in this morning, but that's okay. Better late than never. And so, yes, it is time. It is now time to reveal the main course on my full course menu of life. And for those of you guys who don't know, the full course menu comes from an anime / manga I used to read and watch called Toriko. Now, you do not have time for the entire story, so I'll just cut to the real basics, and that is one of the main points of the story is to seek out your full course menu of life. They are basically the 8 best things you would essentially want or have to eat, if you will. It consists of an hors d'oeuvre, a soup, a salad, a main course, a meat, a fish, a dessert, and a drink. Since day 55, I've slowly but surely revealed each and every single item. I first revealed my dessert, which was Rita's Italian Ice. I then revealed my hors d'oeuvre, which is wings. I then revealed my soup, which is actually a tie between French onion and New England clam chowder. I then revealed my drink, which is soda. I then revealed my salad, which for the most part is Italian dressing with crumbly blue cheese and extra onions, or Caesar. I then revealed my fish dish, which if I'm in the mood for fish, I go for the beer battered fish and chips at Appalachian Brewing Company. Or if I'm in the mood for, anything that's not an actual fish, I go for the all-you-can-eat crab legs at the waterfront over there, and the Switzerland Inn somewhere over that way. Yeah, kind of, sort of. I timed it wrong, sorry. But yes, all-you-can-eat crab legs. I then revealed my meat, which is ribeye. Yes, the Delmonico prime rib, whatever you want to call it. That is my favorite cut of, the animal, and it is awesome. And so now we get into my main course. Now, full disclosure, this is an item that you're going to find, you're either going to really like or you're going to find really, really underwhelming. And it will partly have something to do with one of the clues I gave, and that's what Anthony Bourdain said about this particular item. So, what is the item exactly? Well, I'll just get right to the chase. It's filet mignon. Yeah, it is. Now, the thing about filet mignon, or tenderloin in general, that Anthony Bourdain criticized is that it is the most boring, uninteresting piece of meat on the animal. There's not a lot of it on the animal. That's why it's so expensive. There's no marbling or fat running through it, so there's not much flavor, although it is rather tender. And I wholly agree with every single bit of that. I do. In fact, it's the reason why the ribeye is my meat dish. So why is this my main course? Well, simple enough. I do believe that there can be exceptions to the rule. And I not only found one exception, I had found 3 of them. I think I'll cut to the 3 places where you can get them, starting with the place I had mentioned before, in terms of it does contain another item on my full course menu. Now, before I continue, I mentioned that each and every single one of these places in their own right is the GOAT, and I will explain that. So, that place that I have mentioned before, that contains another item on my full course menu, is the Elbow Room. Yep, the Elbow Room, the place where I have said many times over that it is one of the best places in my entire area where you can get wings. Also has, my main course. And I had mentioned that one of these 3 places actually named this item after a certain sporting event. Well, funny enough, the Elbow Room is actually a golf-themed restaurant. And so they had named their filet mignon the Masters after the golf, PGA tournament thing. So, yes. How good is it, in fact? Well, here's the thing about the Masters in particular. On one hand, I like to think of it as, say you find an oyster, and after you open that oyster, you find a pearl. That would be the Masters. However, let's say that for whatever reason, you weren't interested in the pearl at all. You just wanted the meat of the oyster. That meat would come in the form of the wings. And that's ultimately why the Masters at the Elbow Room is kind of like a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it is by far the best item on their menu, hands down. No one's ever going to contest that. But in terms of what is the most popular, and the reason why I ultimately go, is the wings. Full disclosure, I haven't had the Masters from the Elbow Room in well over a year. And I've been to the Elbow Room, a couple of times since then, and honestly, I just went for the wings and other good bar food that they have. And that's ultimately, the thing about it. So, full disclosure, the Masters is fantastic, and obviously I highly recommend it. But if I want the Masters, I really absolutely am thinking, yeah, I am in the mood for the Masters, I'll get the Masters. Plus, you can always get wings to go with the Masters. I actually call that combination the heaven and earth. See, it's actually a play on a secret menu item that McDonald's has, the McLand Sea and Air. Only you see the wings are the heaven, and the Masters would be the earth. Which would make sense because, again, the Masters is named after the golf tournament of the PGA. So, that works. Okay. Now that that's taken care of. Oh, right. I forgot to mention. Why is the Elbow Room considered the GOAT? Well, I've said numerous times that, including the Elbow Room, the best places where you can get wings are Bernie Murray's, Lakeside, which is actually right over there, and the Valley Inn, which is way over in Branchport. Over, if you go past the bluff, it's past Branchport. So, yes, it is. That's where it is. So, what makes them different from how good the Elbow Room is? Well, believe it or not, a couple of years ago, New York State, I forget what magazine or whatever, did a survey of the 10 or 11 best places in New York State to get, wings. Elbow Room made that list. Yeah. So, that's why I do consider it the GOAT. Plus, if I had talked about having filet as my main course on my full course menu, a lot of people in Elmira who could potentially be watching this would probably think, why did he not mention the Masters from the Elbow Room? So, I did. So, there you go. Now, I talked just about enough about the Masters at the Elbow Room. How about we get into the other two places that I consider to be the GOAT? Now, I mentioned that another clue I had is between all three places, the three restaurants have about 250 years worth of culinary experience. Now, Tony R's has been around for Tony R's in Corning, which is one of the best places to get, ribeye for me, has only been around for just a little over a decade. I'm guessing, because I don't know the exact time the Elbow Room opened, the exact year, it's been around 50 years. And again, I could totally be wrong. The other two places have over 200 years between them. And full disclosure, there is a reason why they have 200 years of culinary experience, these two places I'm about to mention. I feel very comfortable saying this, folks. These two places are the best places to get a bite to eat anywhere. In Elmira, Big Flats, Horseheads, Corning, all those places. These two places are the best. Now, provided... Oh, that was weird. Provided that Tony R's actually doesn't close, I do feel that Tony R's could reach the height of these two places. But until that is yet to be seen, in fact, it might not be seen because, again, Tony R's might actually be closing, the two best places in the entire area are Lib's Supper Club and Moretti's. I also mentioned that one clue was if you combine the initials of all three places, Elbow Room, Lib's, Moretti's, Elm Tree, which, if you're a Pokemon fan, that's actually the name of the professor in the Gold, Silver, and Crystal games. Or Heart Gold and Soul Silver, if you were playing the remakes. So, what exactly is so fantastic about these places, Lib's and Moretti's? Well, here's the thing. They have been around all together at least for 200 years. They are clearly doing something correctly. In fact, I'll start with one before talking about the other, because the other one I'm going to talk a little farther in detail. Starting with Moretti's. Now, no kidding, there was actually about a 10-15 year gap between the last time I was at Moretti's until about 2014. So it was a really long time. We actually went there, and no kidding, it brought me back to when I was a child. And I'm not blowing smoke when I say Moretti's has been around for well over 100 years. Just Moretti's itself, that is. My grandmother was a teenager back when Moretti's was thriving. And to put things into perspective, as of right now, she is 84 and she will turn 85 on August 31st. So, Moretti's was thriving way back then. That should tell you something right there. When I went there to celebrate me completing the Wine Glass Marathon, this was a few weeks after the Wine Glass Marathon, like well in November. When I went there with my grandfather on my mother's side and my parents, my mother had the filet as well. Her exact words were, and I quote, "Best steak I've ever had." And I absolutely have to agree. In fact, if it wasn't for Lib's being around, I'd say that Moretti's would easily take the crown as being the best place. But here's the thing. I said that Lib's is there, and it is. And I mentioned that all three places are in walking distance from one another. From where Lib's and Moretti's are to where the Elbow Room is, that's a trek. But just Lib's and Moretti's, you literally have to turn a corner past one, and then there the other is. I am not even kidding. They are within 1 block of each other. Which, you're thinking, that's rather odd. Yes, it's very odd. So, what's the story with Lib's? Now, this is the story that I've heard, and it's very possible that I'm wrong about this. With that being said, sorry. With that being, sorry, the boats, they're skiing over there, kind of distracting me a little bit. With that being said, darn it, what was I about to say? Alright, I was about to get into why Lib's is so popular. Well, this is the story that I've heard, and this is what I've heard, and I could very well be wrong. So with that being said, apparently the head chef used to work at Moretti's, but apparently there was some sort of falling out, and so between the chef and the owner, and so the chef left that place, went to work for Lib's, and now the rest is history. Now, it's really kind of hard to talk about Lib's and Moretti's, or the filet at the Elbow Room for that matter, without coming up with a sort of rule of thumb that I have to go with it. Yes, there's a rule of thumb for this. Now, if I want the Masters at the Elbow Room, I am going to want to have it with the wings. That's why, again, I call it the Heaven and Earth. Now, at Moretti's, the best thing that you can get with the filet is they actually serve, as an option, sauteed mushrooms, peppers, and onions. I mean, come on, sauteed mushrooms, peppers, and onions. You're hard-pressed to find much that's better than that, right? So, what does Lib's have? Well, there's actually a certain dish at Lib's that the filet comes on. Now, if you were to tell me that the best dish on Libs' menu is the filet and the other thing that it comes with, that's their best dish, I would agree. But if you think that the filet is the best item they have at Libs, best individual item that is, no. In fact, the best item individually at Libs, without question, can be summed up in 2 words. Shrimp scampi. Yep. Simply put, how good is Libs shrimp scampi, you may ask? I feel very comfortable in saying this, ladies and gentlemen. The shrimp scampi at Libs is not only the best item Libs has on their menu, it is the best thing I have ever eaten. No fooling, no nonsense. The shrimp scampi at Libs is the best thing on their menu, and it is the best thing that I personally have ever eaten. In fact, full disclosure, before Toriko even existed, before I knew what anime was, before any of that, ever since I had the shrimp scampi at Libs, I have been on a mission to find any seafood dish that is better or just as good, at the very least, as the shrimp scampi at Libs. I do. In fact, one last thing about Moretti's before I continue. Libs and Moretti's are so good that, no kidding, I have lost sleep at night trying to figure out the who, the what, the when, the where, the why, and the how the good people at both Libs and Moretti's accomplished the feat of making me lose sleep at night, because that's how good their food is. Anyway, I really wanted to say that before I moved on. So, with that being said, I have tried looking all over the place to find any sort of, not just shrimp dish, but seafood dish in general that's better than the shrimp scampi over at Libs. And believe me, I found some good ones. Darn good ones. The shrimp scampi over at Sorge's on Market Street in Corning. The steak and shrimp dish that's over at Union Block Italian Bistro in Hammondsport. The shrimp scallop linguine over at the Switzerland Inn. There is sort of like a stuffed shrimp dish at the Putnam Diner near Pawling, New York. And funny enough, even Olive Garden pleasantly surprised me. They are all good, and I highly recommend them, but not one of those places holds a candle to what Libs can do. It is practically unfair. And it stuns me every time I have the shrimp scampi, because I go to bed at night after having it, and I think to myself, man, that was just too good. How'd they do that? Yes, it is, without question, the best thing I've ever eaten. So, it begs the question, how come the shrimp scampi itself isn't the main course on your full course menu? Or at the very least your fish dish? Well, here's the thing. And this is actually what I mentioned when I did my fish dish video on day 505. See, I do remember. I keep track of these things. And that is, as much as I love seafood, for the most part, it's very light and delicate. It takes an exuberantly large amount of it to satiate me. What can I say? I'm a beast. Anyway, but joking aside, it really does take a lot of fish of any kind, be it actual fish or seafood, to, satiate my appetite. That's why the all-you-can-eat crab legs at the waterfront over there, or again, the Switz over there, that's why it appeals to me. That's why the all-you-can-eat fish and chips at the Appalachian Brewing Company appeals to me. Because, again, it's all you can eat. What can be better than that, right? And granted, if you get the shrimp scampi at Libs, you're going to get I think 9 shrimp, I think is what it is. Where if you get the filet and the shrimp scampi, you do get fewer shrimp, But a fillet is much heftier, sturdier, and can overall satiate my appetite better than just shrimp by itself. Plus, it's surf and turf, guys. You're hard pressed to find any combination that's better than that. So yeah. Oh, fish right there. Huh. Funny, I'm talking about fish, and there it is. So yes, to the good people of Elmira who are probably watching this, you're probably cheering right now that I mentioned all 3 places where you can get my main course on my full course menu, because yes, all 3 places are in Elmira. However, if we are doing sort of a ranking system, I would say that Libs and Moretti's are 1, Elbow Room is 1A. In fact, full disclosure, if any of my brothers from Trinity Pawling ever came to visit me, I would take them to either Libs or Moretti's. I would only take them to the Elbow Room if they were just really in the mood for, bar food. But in terms of, doing what's right for my brothers, I would definitely take them to either Libs or the Elbow Room. Libs or Moretti's. Libs or Moretti's. And where we would decide to go would obviously depend on what they wanted, because, to my brothers from Trinity Pawling who would come and visit me if they wanted to, you would be the guest, it would be your choice. So, yes, all in all, if you want the filet at the Elbow Room, or the Masters at the Elbow Room is what it's called, you get it with wings. If you want it from Moretti's, you get it with sauteed mushrooms, peppers, and onions. And, pardon the language, if you want it from Libs, for the love of God, get it with the shrimp scampi. You will thank me later if you haven't already had it. For those who have had it, you're welcome for probably revealing the world what your favorite thing to eat is without even trying. And remember, I mentioned that one of the clues involved the whole men should share their leftovers from these places with men should share their leftovers with their ladies. I'm not kidding. Their food is so good that, fellas, if you really do want your woman to stick by you, give them your leftovers from Libs. I actually have 2 friends who are married right now who do exactly that. And they just got married. Actually, they should be celebrating their 1-year anniversary coming up. So, yeah. They do that, and they are very happy. So that should tell you something right there. And you know what? It's 4th of July. I'm feeling really excited. So you know what? How about I end this polar bear plunge style? Hold on a minute. Remove the bandana. Oh, that totally messed up my hair. Seaweed here. Well, by the time I face my tubers anyway. Water in my ear. I have now officially conquered my completely irrational and stupid fear. Because you know why? I, like the Founding Fathers before me, like the Dallas Cowboys before me, like Terry Crews before me, which reminds me, I had to do that at least once, and like Scooter Magruder, I am a grown man! And to finish it off, now that's how you end off a video, ladies and gentlemen. Like, favorite, share, hit that subscribe button, follow me on the social media platforms. I am humbled I made this video for all of you guys to watch and enjoy for today. I am hopeful that we all have a wonderful, wonderful seaweed on my hand. Wonderful 4th of July. Ah, excuse me. And remember, if any of you guys ever want to talk or chat, I'm always going to be here to lend an ear, which at the moment has water in it. There we go. There we go. Ah, son of a gun. There we go. And I'll always have your back. Take care. And on a day like today, try and make good choices. Like me, like jumping in a nice cold lake when it was filled with seaweed, which I could have grabbed more, but you know, seaweed's kind of, you know, tender. But yeah, I totally conquered my fear. And you know, I'll always have your back, ladies and gentlemen. Take care, make good choices, and happy Independence Day. USA, USA, USA. Woo!